clay that is left after your pinch pot. All of it. Anything left, everyone tracking there. All of your clay, and you need to re-wedge it. Now, when I wedge, it's the ram's head technique. I'm trying to push the clay at an angle through the rest of the clay to push out any air bubbles. Because this is no longer fresh clay out of the bag, how many times do I wedge it?
40 to 60.
40 to 60. Good job, guys. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to pretend like I've wedged this 40 to 60 times. I'm not firing mine, so it won't get an air bubble and explode in the kiln. All right, then once you've wedged it 40 to 60 times, you're going to block it out. Austin, I love it. All right. Once I have it blocked out, I'm going for a rectangle that is taller than it is wide. And if I want to stretch my clay a little bit to lengthen it, you can always just kind of pull it apart and push the direction. The rolling pins are right on the lower shelf of your tools. So you're going to grab a rolling pin and 2 sticks. These are 1/4 inch thick. And you're going to use them as guides to make sure your clay is rolled to an even thickness. So this is a slab construction that we're making. And I want to stretch my clay it's getting not quite wide enough. So I'm going to roll it this way a little. Okay, I went off my guide and I got a little bit too deep there. I don't want a dent or a divot in it. This is a thinner guide. Do you see how the rulers aren't quite as tall as the stick? I'm going to move down to that thinner guide since I made a mistake and got a divot. Thicker is going to be easier when you're learning. Thinner will be a little bit more difficult. But if you need a little more clay, you can use the thinner guide. All right, I'm going for a piece of clay that'll fit my template on it. Now I have templates right over by where Maroni's standing on that table. And they look like this. You can cut them out, but you can also just use a template that someone may have already cut out and left there. They're all the same size. So once I know that my clay is even thickness and will fit my template, I'm going to trace it. And then I like to use a fettling knife to cut off any extras. And because I used a guide, my clay should all be an even thickness. Your cup is a form, and it's called a form because you actually form your clay around it. But we don't want the clay to stick to the cup, so what I think is easiest is putting the bottom or the butt of the cup into the bottom of the bag and just wrapping the excess bag into the mouth of the cup. Makes sense? So the skinnier side of the cup, or the smaller circle, will be the smaller line. And the outside of the cup will work towards the larger line. Do you see how these are curved? Like if I were to make a circle, so the inside of the circle goes to the bottom of the cup. It's not going to touch the bottom. It's going to be somewhere anywhere from a 1/2 inch to an inch off. Oops, I'm going the wrong direction. A 1/2 inch to an inch off this way. Can you see through what I'm doing? And then I'm going to lift. And this is the time you want to use a canvas. I think I forgot to say that. But did you see how it stuck? Yeah, you don't want it to stick to your plastic. But you're going, trying to get them to meet. Do you see how I'm slightly short? Right? So I can stretch it by kind of throwing my clay a little. I'm holding one end and kind of slowly or lightly tossing the other end. That's going to stretch it out. Some of you guys might not need to stretch yours at all. And now I have a little extra, but I can just lower my cup. Does that make sense? To fit that gap. Like so. See how they come to meet? If your clay stretches a little bit out of shape, you could cut it to meet each other. Like if one size is longer than the other. If they don't meet exactly, that's perfectly acceptable. I got really lucky this time. All right. So then you're going to score it. I like to use the fork for this score because I like it to be really rough. Right? Because I have 2 big chunks of clay that I'm mixing or meeting together. And I need to make sure that they're strong enough to connect. And I'm going to take my slip. Work it into the grooves. Remember, slip is like the glue, but you don't want too much. Okay. And the secret here, the trick here is to try not to get any plastic in it. So I'm kind of pulling my plastic out of the way and then butting them. And I'm pulling not just right here, I'm kind of like grabbing around the cup and pushing it together so I don't accidentally thin out where they meet. And you kind of get like a lip, like it kind of comes up to a little peak. Do you guys see that peak it kind of comes up to? And then you're going to knit your clay in opposite directions because you want them to merge into each other. And then when you knit it, you don't want to knit it back and forth, separate them again. You want to knit it vertically, right? The opposite direction of the attachment. Make sense? And then I want to knit, and this is one of the reasons we don't want it to go all the way to the bottom because it wants to separate right here, right? Just naturally. So I'm going to knit the inside. I couldn't reach in there with my fork. But I'm going to make sure I connect it, not just on the outside. I'm going to, as far as I can reach, I'm going to knit it on the inside too. And hopefully, by the time I'm done, no one will really be able to see that this is risen up at all, or that it was where they were connected. Does that make sense? All right, so then, once you're done with that, you're going to do the exact same thing. Again, only now you have a small bit of clay left. So you're not going to be able to round side wedge it. It's going to be a block wedge. I'm going to squish it together as much as I can and then block wedge it. You're going to do this 40 to 60 times, but for demo purposes, we're going to pretend it's that many. 40 to 60 times, remember? All right. Then, I want this to be the same thickness as the rest of my pot. We'll pretend that I'm there. just made as my template this time. Score. What do I do after I score this?
You put the.
Score that as well.
Yep, I'm going to score both pieces. Good. And then Austin, you were right. What do I do after I score both pieces?
You put the mud on it.
Yep, I put the slip on it. Now you want to make sure before you press them into each other that you have it so that it fits.
Are we making cups?
We're making speaker creatures, but the cup is like the form.
So it'll be
for
like
it.
speakers.
Yes.
We can
When
design
are we
them.
starting this?
Well, today's the demo. You
So I
can
can do
start as
anything?
soon as you're done with your pinch pot. You
Oh.
can start this. Your pinch pot is your priority.
So I can do anything for a speaker.
Well, right now I'm just showing you the shape of it, but you'll turn it into a creature. And yes, you can get very creative. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, so then, same thing you did before. But this time, and again, I'm not doing it correctly, but you guys know I'm doing the same thing here that I did when I attached it here, right? This time I want to pull this down into the cup. Right? So then all the way around, essentially you're using the cup as a form for your speaker creature. When you're done with this, you can just leave it like this and put it in your ice cream bucket with the lid on. You don't need to recover it because it can get leather hard. But I want to show you why the plastic's important. Okay? So you don't need to take it out yet, but just to reiterate the importance of that plastic, I can just pull the cup out, right? And now, do you see how it sticks and I have to literally unstick the plastic? So if you put the cup in, you're going to have to cut it off and start over. So don't forget the plastic step. It's really important. That's it. Does anybody have any questions?
No.
You'll probably have a lot, but I'll put the video in Google Classroom and I'll walk around and help.
And we're done.